Welcome everyone to Let's Play Metroid Prime. A game from my childhood that, man, did I love. Metroid was a series that I played quite a bit of, including the original Metroid, Metroid 2 on the Game Boy, and of course, Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo a bit later in life. Though for me, growing up, Metroid Prime was the game series I mainly played. It gave me an incredible love of Samus and everything this series had to offer. So, let's get rid of this first file here, because we aren't gonna need it. And instead, let's start a new game. Now, because I have beaten the game, hard mode is available for us, but we'll be playing it on normal because that's all you would have if this were a new save file. Otherwise, we have some options here, which is really nice, such as visor opacity, helmet opacity, HUD lag, the hint systems, and of course, restoring defaults. There's also things like the screen brightness, the offsets, and a feature I really appreciate, screen stretch. This basically allows you to play in widescreen, which is really nice. There's of course all the different sound options, and if you're more used to how modern games play, where aiming up is up and down is down, you can reverse the Y-axis. By default, pressing down will move the camera up and vice versa. Normally, in a twin-stick shooter, I would prefer to have the Y-axis inverted, but for this game, I like how it is currently, where if I press up, it goes down, because although this game lends itself to being a twin-stick shooter, you only use one of the sticks to aim and look and move. This is because the C button, which in this case is the secondary stick on the GameCube controller, is actually used for switching beams, and then the D-pad is used for switching visors, which we'll see once we get into the game. So I'm going to leave that how it is, because to be honest, I think the game really lends itself to its original control scheme. There is a remake of this game on the Nintendo Switch, and that game features full twin-stick gameplay, and frankly, it's really good. But that version of the game is missing something that the GameCube version has, which we'll be getting into much later, probably as a bonus video. Otherwise, the last thing I want is to turn off the hint system. In your first playthrough of Metroid Prime, the hint system is a really useful thing that basically tells you where to go, because admittedly, Metroid's all about exploring, finding new items, and using them in places you've been. This game, while it does a pretty good job of letting you explore, has a really aggressive hint system, where if you take basically more than 2 minutes to go where you need to go, the game will throw a hint on screen that won't go away until you accept it, and then it'll tell you exactly where to go. It's not bad if this is your first time playing the game, and if you want a much more casual experience. It'll help you get through it, and it's honestly a really nice setting. But, for the point of the LP, I know the game pretty darn well. And I'd also like to make sure, okay, good, make sure it's off. Then otherwise, let's jump into normal mode. Unidentified distress beacon has been tracked to a derelict space vessel in orbit above Talon 4. And so, here's our intro. Drifting in the vast expanse of space. Panning over to what can only be assumed to be the planet Talon 4. A trend that more or less started in Super Metroid, the third game of the series. We'll begin our adventure on this space station here. she is. At this point, the famed bounty hunter, Samus Aran, who we'll be taking control of for our journey. Man, I gotta say, she looks awesome in her power suit. Welcome, more or less, to the tutorial. This space station will teach you the basics of how to play the game. Press and hold the left bumper to lock onto targets, like so. Basically, if you see that little ring around something, you can lock onto it. It's pretty straightforward, to be honest. In order to shoot, you press the A button, and you can basically shoot as quick as you can tap the button, which is really nice. Still, let's do as the game teaches, and we'll get into the other controls as we progress. The next set of force field controls are offline. Scan the central pillar to activate them. Press the D-pad to the left to switch to the scan visor. A very important mechanic that we will be doing a ton of in this game. Scannable objects appear as orange targets. Press and hold L to scan a target. Notably, red ones are more important than the normal orange targets. So, keep an eye out for them and use your scan visor often. Scan complete. Force field activation switches are now online. Now, press up or press the A button to return to the combat visor. Still, there are things here that we want to scan. This switch is directly connected to the force field barrier. This force field blocks the entrance. And so, by using our nifty little scanner, we can scan all sorts of things. Not only objects in the area, but enemies too. This is going to be imperative to beating the game and figuring out just how to combat certain enemies. So, your scan visor isn't just good for gathering info, but it's good for identifying weaknesses as well. Now otherwise, if you remember, we can use the left trigger there to lock onto these little switches. And I've already done it, but if you hold, while using the stick, you can hold the right bumper to free aim. Now, as I said, when I press up, it looks down. When I press down, it looks up. It feels quite natural in this game, I must say. Not all games lend themselves to it, but I feel this game really does. Otherwise, you can press the B button to perform a jump, A to shoot open doors. Once shot, doors will open when you approach them. And here, we have a great example of something you may not have thought to scan. Deck Gamma, reactor core and propulsion, current status, environment normal. Deck Alpha, emergency evacuation area, current status, environment unstable. So based on that, you can get a pretty good idea of what we have ahead. Entrance to airlock, very nice. And while I don't think I'll be scanning everything possible, I will still try to scan a lot of things. Airlock repressurization successful. Entrance to Deck Alpha Access Hall. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of noises of things that don't exactly sound friendly, shall we say. Wouldn't you know, there's a lot going on. So, time to get scanning. Morphology, a space pirate. Status, death, caused by a severing of the spinal cord. Yeah, not exactly something very fun. Now, for anyone who's played any of the other Metroids, you would know that space pirates are a recurring enemy, one that Samus has tangoed with before. A new creature entry has been downloaded to your logbook. Morphology, parasite, interstellar vermin, travel in swarms. Oops, should have kept reading there. They are indigenous to Talon 4. A single parasite is harmless to larger life forms. However, they tend to travel in large groups, swarming over potential prey. Such swarms can be dangerous. There is going to be so much lore to scan and read in this game, and boy oh boy am I excited. And don't worry, for those of you who aren't so into scanning and reading, there's going to be plenty of combat and action as well. But it'll take a little bit of time to get into it. So for now, sit back and ease in. Escape pod entrance. The vessel has already been jettisoned. Uh-oh. Otherwise, as the game's telling us, we can lock onto enemies. Biohazardous materials. Phase-on batch 0142.A. Destination Deck Beta. Biohazardous materials. Phase-on batch 0009.A. Destination Deck Beta. But if we aren't in such a hurry, we can get plenty of extra lore. Biohazardous materials. Phase-on batch 0073.A. Destination Deck Beta. Interesting. And, Morphology, Space Pirate. Status, death caused by severe flame damage to exoskeleton. So, yeah. Morphology, unknown. Info, high levels of radiation detected. Analysis shows incredibly large muscle structures surrounding the jaw area. Fluid sacs containing acid are also detected. Right. Say, whatever did this to the space pirates, it doesn't look very friendly. Otherwise, the escape pod entrance, vessel's already been jettisoned. Evacuation occurred 6 hours prior to your arrival. So whatever's been going on has been happening for quite a bit now. Morphology, Space Pirate. Status, death caused by acidic burns to body. Chemical type unknown. So I think it's safe to say that, whatever that thing is, took out our, space pirate friends, we'll call them. But wouldn't you know, there's still a live one. Species, Space Pirate. Status, weak life signs detected. Imprints of large bite marks can be seen on the exoskeleton. So, yeah. Now, another little combat trick is when you shoot, you can then hold the A button to charge up your charge beam. Basically, takes a little bit of time, but it gives you a much stronger shot in exchange for your time. It's pretty useful. Escape Pod 3 launched. Escape Pod 4 launched. 7 launched. Escape Pod launch coordinates. Talon 4 110L.30L.research Command Center. Ah, boy. More or less, the pirates escaped from here onto Talon 4. I'm certain that won't have any horrid repercussions. And, ugh. Morphology, Space Pirate. Status, death caused by excessive blunt trauma to cranium. Yeah. Although this debris is obstructing the hallway, it looks like it can be easily removed. This is where the game teaches you about the charge beam. I got a little ahead of it, but hey. Figured in a combat scenario, it's good to know. And in here, we'll learn about a rather famous Metroid staple. The entrance to the elevator. No. By pressing the X button, Samus can turn into her Morph Ball, which allows her to move around at high speeds with a smaller hitbox, and by pressing the A button, you can deploy concussive bombs. These aren't really meant as a weapon, more so a puzzle-clearing obstacle, so keep it in mind. Still, some enemies are weak to it. Frigate exterior hull stable and fully functional. Talon 4 ground zero area secure. Crater radiation readings normal. 2 parasite queen specimens have become volatile on deck beta. all security personnel should report to the biotech research area. Parasitic infestation has been detected in the ventilation system of decks Gamma and Beta. So, we should be careful. And here, a new research entry has been downloaded to your logbook. This is a map station. Walk into map station holograms to download a map of the area you're in. These are always incredibly useful. So if you see them, you should grab them. You've downloaded the map for this area. Press Z to access the map. When you're finished, press Z again to resume play. And so, here's our map. It's pretty darn extensive. It also shows you a bunch of the different beams that you'll be needing to open various doors. Any beam, the wave beam, ice beam, plasma beam, missiles, doors that you've already opened, elevators, missile recharge, save stations, hints, and of course, you can hide the legend and key, but usually I like to keep it on just so I have an idea of what it is. Obviously, I already know all of it, but still, it's nice for people who have, never seen the map. Now, the cool thing is that the map is completely 3D, so you can move it around and look at it in a lot of different angles. The other neat thing is that the sticks down there correspond to how I'm moving the stick, so I think that's a cute little detail. Now, although you can press Z to exit, you can also press B. Now, speaking of menus, if we press start, we can look at our inventory with Samus and all the various goodies we have. Anything you see that is in blue is generally something that you either already know about or have read. Still, let's do some reading, shall we? The power beam is the default arm cannon. It has the best rate of fire. Press up on the C stick to select your power beam as your active weapon. And notably, Samus has notes for each of her items. The power beam can be used to open blue doors. If you see your shots ricochet, cease fire. The power beam is not working against that target. You can use the power beam to quickly clear an area of weak foes. So, it's your stock standard bread and butter beam. It'll get you through pretty much the whole game if you want to exclusively use it for enemies, but there's going to be scenarios where you can't use it, so keep it in mind. The Morph Ball. The Morph Ball changes your suit into a compact mobile sphere. Press X to enter Morph Ball mode, and press X again to leave Morph Ball mode. Samus's notes. Like the Power Suit, the Morph Ball is modular. There are several modifications that can be added to improve performance, as denoted by the question marks. We also have the Morph Ball Bomb. It's the default weapon for the Morph Ball. Press A to use it. Samus's notes. The Morph Ball Bomb can be used to break cracked walls and activate certain devices. If the Morph Ball is near a Morph Ball Bomb when it explodes, it will be popped a short distance into the air. This is called a bomb jump. When a Morph Ball Bomb explodes, it must be close to the enemy to be effective. The Morph Ball Bomb can easily break items made of sandstone or telluric alloy. Keep that in mind. We then have the Power Suit. The Power Suit is an advanced Chozo exoskeleton modified for use by Samus Aran. Samus's notes. The Power Suit provides life support functions and is well shielded from attack. The modular nature of the Power Suit allows for the addition of weapons, visors, and other gear as needed. The Power Suit shielding loses energy with each hit. Collect energy when possible to keep the shielding charged. Generally, good advice. And of course, the Varia Suit, which gets its name from a very interesting mistranslation of barrier. So, it's now the Varia Suit. Honestly, it's kind of one of the most iconic things of Metroid. It's also where she gets those big shoulders from. The Varia Suit adds increased heat resistance to the Power Suit. This modification increases your defensive shielding. While the Varia Suit can handle higher temperatures than normal, extreme heat sources and heat-based attacks will still cause damage. So, think like literal fire, lava, or other various things, acid included. Otherwise, the Combat Visor. is your default visor. It provides you with a heads-up display HUD containing radar, minimap, lock-on reticules, threat assessment, energy gauge, and missile count. Press up on the D-pad to select the combat visor. Icons for the arm cannons you possess are shown in the lower right corner of the combat visor. Icons for the visors you possess are shown in the lower left corner of the combat visor. Basically, it's an all-included HUD. It's really nice. Of course, we know about the scan visor and how it's used to collect data. Some devices will activate when scanned. Press left on the D-pad to select the scan visor, move the visor over targets with the orange symbol there, then press and hold L to scan. Use the D-pad to select another available visor or press A to turn said visor off, generally the scan visor. Samus notes, mission critical scan targets in red, will be red in color. Scanning enemies with this visor can reveal their vulnerabilities. More or less stuff I've already covered, but you get the point. I still want to show you where I learned this from. You will be unable to fire any weapon while the scan visor is active. That is important. You can't use it for combat. Scanned data, vital to the success of the mission, is also downloaded and stored in the logbook section of the pause screen. Press R on this screen to access the logbook. And then finally, our secondary items, such as the grapple beam, which allows you to swing back and forth from special points in the environment. Grapple points appear in your visor as a little hook icon. Press and hold L to fire the grapple beam. Hold L down to stay connected. Let go to release. The grapple beam can be used to cross large gaps. Use the stick left and right while grappling to swing in different directions. We also, of course, have the missile launcher, a very nice ballistic weapon system. The missile launcher adds ballistic weapon capability to the arm cannon. Press Y to fire the missile launcher. Press A to return to beam mode. Missiles fired with a lock-on will seek their targets. Missiles can destroy objects made from radion or brimstone. There are charge combo enhancements scattered throughout the environment. They use the missile launcher and the charge beam in tandem to fire more effective blasts. Each missile expansion you find will increase the number of missiles you can carry by 5. Something that we'll be getting into later in the game. And of course, the charge beam. It allows you to increase the damage and effectiveness of the arm cannon. Press and hold A to charge the arm cannon, then release A to fire. The charge beam has a limited tractor beam capacity. Use it to pull small objects to you. There are charge combo enhancements scattered throughout the environment. They use the charge beam and the missile launcher in tandem to fire more effective blasts. The charge beam increases the performance of each arm cannon mode. So yeah, you start with quite a few really nice items, things that we'll be using all throughout the game. Of course, there's also the logbook, which has info on a lot of things, basically any and everything you can scan. Now look, to be fair, we've already gone through a lot of that, so let's keep moving. I figured this first episode will be a nice long one so we can really get all the tutorial stuff out of the way. Access to deck beta approved, please step into the hologram. But yeah, there is so much front load in this game that I want to make sure we get through it all, so it might be a bit of a longer first episode. Frankly, that's a-okay by me. I wouldn't want to deprive you of all this. It's pretty cool. Ooh. Another interesting thing, too, which the game mentioned, is that as you get closer to objects that'll hurt you, you have a little warning indicator on the left there of your HUD. It's pretty darn nice. Otherwise, let's see. Specimen containment breach on deck beta. All crew report for lockdown. This energy conductor unit has been damaged. Use caution when approaching the arcing electricity. So yeah, be prepared for the environment to try to hurt you just as much as any enemy might. Boy. Here we have a rather populated room, let's say. Morphology unknown. Low life signs detected. This creature appears to be in a state of stasis hibernation. Well, Probably a good thing for us. Specimen Cell C, status unknown. Rejection of phazon compound detected. Which, if you remember, that's that radiation substance we were reading about earlier. Specimen Cell A, status hibernation. Transference of phazon batch 0081.D complete. Specimen Cell B, status unknown. Rejection of phazon compound detected. And then over there, well, we have some alive space pirates. Morphology, space pirate. Status, severe internal damage detected. So yeah, these guys aren't going to give you too much trouble, but they're still a little dangerous. You can also use the stick left and right while holding L to strafe around enemies. A very useful dodging tactic. This space pirate, let's see, status, both legs of this creature are broken. Ugh. You know, we'll, just put you out of your misery there, buddy. No one's coming to help you. Sorry. Parasite egg in pupa stage. Its tough exoskeleton protects it from its mother's acidic embryonic fluid. Otherwise, the fluid sacs in the mouth enlarge after mutation. This allows for increased production of corrosive bile. After mutation, the carapace of the larva becomes rigid. The carapace is quite resilient, able to resist the attacks of many predators. Combat mutation applications are complete. The primary legs of this creature possess galvanized tips, allowing it to penetrate any known alloy. So yeah, it would seem that the space pirates here were using this phazon stuff to experiment on these parasites. It seems like they had queens. Coils on this ventilation cap look unstable. Well, nothing we can really do right now, but good to know. Otherwise, doesn't look like there's anything else in here to read for now. So, onwards we go. Ooh, the game's also teaching us how to fire missiles, so you can assume we'll need them. Ballistics support needed in Specimen Block F. Well, sounds good to me. Aha! And here's why. A new creature entry has been downloaded to the logbook. Subject auto defense turret. Use missiles to break outer casing. Now, while it does say to use missiles, you can also get away with using the charge beam. More or less, one missile is equivalent to one charge beam shot, generally speaking. There are some things that will outright require missiles, so keep that in mind. Your missile count is rather important. We only have 15 right now, so use them, but maybe keep a couple on hand. Maybe minimum 5 or so, just in case. Now, another little tactic is when you shoot missiles, they take a little bit of time to fire. I'm going to show you. So if you press Y, it'll instantly fire one. Your arm cannon then cycles the next missile to be fired. So if I mash Y, it takes a little bit of time to shoot. However, there's a bit of a way around this. Should you fire a missile, switch instantly back to the beam cannon by pressing A and then tapping Y again, you can chain missiles much quicker than you could normally shoot them. I know I'm wasting missiles here when I just said not to, but I wanted to show you that little combat trick which will help you a lot in the early game. Otherwise, Phazon Infusion Stage 1, Parasite Larva Diagnostic, Mass 1.2, Length 0.5, Cell Structure Stable. Phazon Infusion Stage 2, Introducing Mutagen into Tank, Phazon Batch 0732.C, Status Complete. A new pirate data entry has been downloaded to your logbook. Space Pirate Encrypted Data Decoded. Log 09.992.3. Zebus has fallen. All ground personnel are presumed dead, either killed by the hunter clad in metal or in the subsequent destruction of the underground facilities. Our research frigates Orpheon, Syracuse, and Vol Paragom were in orbit at 0 hour and managed to retreat. Frigate Orpheon is now docked at Vortex Outpost. Orpheon's cargo appears to have a 100% survival rate. Metroids are healthy but on restricted feeding schedules due to uncertain supply status. We are ready to begin research on the Metroids and other promising life forms. Security status remains at Code Blue. No signs of pursuit from the hunter. For those who are unaware, that is concerning Metroid 1, where Samus was sent to planet Zebes to combat the space pirates and Metroids. Phazon Fusion Stage 3. Mutation initiated. Larva status, stable. And let's see here. There we go. Perimeter defense turret, malfunction. Should you have scanned this and not blown up the turret, it would have deactivated it. So, sometimes scanning things can also get rid of enemies. Phazon Fusion Stage 4, Larva Diagnostic. Mass, 14.5, length, 40.3, cell structure failing. We also have some enemies here. Morphology, parasite larva. Info, harmless unless encountered in large numbers. Morphology, plasmite. Info, native of Talon 4. Specimen, solitary holding 1. Phazon level, unknown. Status, xenotropic life form unstable. Use caution. This is an enemy that was in Super Metroid and even Metroid, I believe, 1 and 2 to some extent. You won't really encounter them in this game, but it's cool that they at least make mention of them, especially considering that this is a pirate space station, so it makes sense they'd have things from their home base. Specimen cell structure failing. Batch 0732.C does not match DNA, terminating infusion sequence. And let's see here, what is this? Infusion analysis 12.5. Phazon batch 0003.H increases the acid production in the saliva ducts of parasite larvae. Infusion analysis 10.2. Specimens exhibit incredible strength and body mass increase when exposed to Phazon batch 0732.C. Basically, just a bunch of research notes that are really telling you what all's going on here. Morphology, unknown. Info, this specimen's been horribly mutated. There are no life readings. So basically, whatever that originally was, it no longer is. Experiment 435.8. Bioform pain tolerance levels at 13% and holding. So, if it wasn't incredibly obvious, the space pirates aren't exactly ethical in how they're doing things. Biohazard waste removal may begin in 3 hours. Phazon radiation readings must be reported to deck commander before batch disposal. Elevator operational. And why not? Platform active. If you see there on the radar, plenty of enemies to deal with. Specimen solitary holding 2, Phazon level, toxic. Status, hermetic seal holding. And sometimes trying to scan one thing is a little harder with other things around. Specimen, or species, space pirate. Status, severe internal damage detected. So look, while we may not be friends, we at least can grant you a mercy. Morphology, Zoomer. Info, native of Talon 4. Morphology, plated parasite larva, native of Talon 4. Little sneak peek on some enemies we'll be facing on Talon 4. Morphology, war wasp, another native of Talon 4. Oh, hello. Another space pirate here. Status, brain hemorrhage detected. Creature's aim will be hindered. Avoid damage by using quick movements. So yeah. One thing I don't think the game's told us is if you tap B while strafing left or right, you can do a quick hop using your boosters, which namely are how you jump, but it also turns out they have combat application as well, which is very useful. Ooh, You seem normal. Morphology, space pirate. Status, minimal injuries assessed. Use caution. Maximum firepower recommended. So, with the game's advice, this is where we'll chain missiles, but we already heard them. And a new research entry has been downloaded to your logbook. Small energy replenishes 10 units of energy. Very nice. You can see our energy in our HUD up there, which is very nice. And let's see, it looks like another enemy we've seen. Species solitary holding 3, phase and level normal. Hermetic seal is holding. Specimen solitary holding 4, phase and level toxic. So it looks like a lot of their experiments have been pretty successful. Morphology, shriek bat, another native of Talon 4. And let's see, what are you? An ice shriek bat, another native. And I guess too, I should really look in here and show you guys what all we're looking at. None of these enemies are exactly all that nice looking. And trust me, they hurt a fair bit when you actually go to fight them. At least for the ones that you need to fight. Not all of the enemies here that we see are always going to be hostile. Namely, I believe the plasmites, they just make light. But things like the zoomers, well, they're going to keep doing their thing, and if you leave them alone, they're not going to come after you, which is pretty nice. Otherwise, another thing to read. Mutagen Tank 1, phase on batch 0732.c. Mutagen Tank 2, phase on batch 003.h. Come on now. And see, sometimes it's a little finicky trying to scan certain things. Mutagen Tank 3, phase on batch 1426.k. Another seal. Specimen solitary holding 5. Status empty. Sure. And what about you? Mutagen Tank 4, phase on batch 3203.c. And, hey buddy. Space Pirate. Status, acid burns have welded the joints of the exoskeleton. Oh. So yeah, while the Space Pirates may not exactly be the nicest things around, it seems they've gotten what's coming to them. Ooh. Obstruction detected in reactor ventilation system. Engineering crew report to freight lift corridor immediately. Security codes on auto defense turrets are changed every other lunar cycle. Using improper codes may result in turret activation. Ooh, speaking of turret, hello. Now one thing, if it's not incredibly obvious, is this game uses tank controls. And, hello, new research. Missile ammunition resupplies missile launcher with 5 rounds of ammo. But basically what I mean by tank controls is in order to move forward, I press forward, but in order to move left and right, well, I have to fully turn and then press forward. I can move backwards normally, but in order to move kind of left and right, you kind of got to angle the stick at about a 75-degree angle on either side. It's not the greatest, but the game lends itself to it pretty well. Otherwise, Space Pirate. Status, death caused by severe lacerations to the abdomen. Ugh. Access to deck gamma approved. Please step into the hologram. That we can do. Platform active. Honestly, what a nice little elevator ride. And while I did say that I really wanted to finish... Ooh! Hello. Morphology, Space Pirate. Minimal injuries assessed. Maximum firepower recommended. That we can do. And, well, I accidentally walked into the elevator again. But that'll let me get through what I wanted to say. Because, while I did want to do the whole research station in one go, frankly, I kind of forgot how long it was going to take with me stopping and reading everything out loud. So, I think once we defeat this Space Pirate, There we go. Now that we've defeated the space pirate, I think next time we play Metroid Prime, we'll finish up the space station, see what happens. As always, I'm Brad. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.